We are live. Good to see you today, my EOS Podcast friends. I'm here with the one and only Nathan James.
Part two.
Yeah, part two. Going since before mainnet launch, or maybe right out in mainnet when all this glorious stuff started really picking up speed. So, yeah, man, great to have you back on. Go ahead and introduce yourself for anyone. People know who you are, so you don't really need to do that. But, yeah, how's everything going, man?
It's going pretty well. Just had a kid. A little bit hard to balance the work life and the parent life, but it's good. It's going well.
Wow. How old? You just had a kid? Like, how old's your baby?
We've got one that's soon to be 4, and then, or not soon, but another half year. And then this other baby's, I think it's a month today.
Oh my
actually.
Gosh. Wow. And you're going.
A little cutie.
That's fantastic.
She's a month and 2 days.
Well, congratulations. I usually ask what's most exciting about EOS right now, but I guess that's probably having a 1-month-old baby. So
it's the human baby.
Yeah.
The human baby.
That's killer, man.
But you know what? It's new territory. Like trying to juggle those both at the same time. It's exciting, frightening, and exciting.
Yeah, I mean, because you guys, Scatter's constantly putting out updates. I mean, it's moving so fast. So most recently, you guys, I just saw the marketplace you're launching. Is that the most recent update? And can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, there's a couple things that we kind of released teasers about yesterday. One was the marketplace, which is kind of like a open source marketplace, which other wallets can tap into. And it's not only for us, it's for everybody, right? Just like most of the stuff we do. Then there was also a little first snapshot of the upcoming mobile wallet, which we're starting to work on. And then there was also a video of where we are on Riddle, the reputation and identity layer. There was a lot of stuff yesterday.
Yeah, I know. When I went through and was catching up on your Twitter, I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing.
Yeah, it was a nice bundle. What we're really trying to do is just create this big cohesive ecosystem to allow developers and users to be able to do anything they want within a single trusted space, right? Whether we control that space or whether other people control that space, but allow them to have the tools to build that space.
Yeah, and you've been getting rid of a lot of the rough layers for the user experience where,
right.
Now I'm going in and I'm using my LastPass key to get into Scatter, and I'm not really worried about all my private keys and things like that. And then I'm going through dApps and kind of navigating, actually getting to play a little bit with the EOS blockchain, where it seems like 4 or 5 months ago it was just such a tedious process. So it's getting a lot better. It's getting a lot.
It's come a long way. Rami, my brother, who joined Scatter a couple months ago, he really helped elevate the user experience a lot. It made it a lot easier for users to come into the space, made it a lot easier for users who are already in the space to work in the space. So there's a lot of improvements that have been done, a lot of improvements that are coming down the pipeline.
Have you guys been working together have you guys worked together often throughout your lives, like on development projects, or is this
every now and then? Yeah. I can't say we've, consistently worked together for long periods of time, but we have joined forces every now and then.
That's cool. Is he more UX, you were saying, or is you guys have some overlapping skills, or how that look?
So Rami started his kind of IT career in graphics. And then a more recent development to that is actually getting into development. And then I pulled him back into the graphics fold a little bit. I think he was kind of a little bit bored with it, graphics in general. But it looks like blockchain kind of hit a nerve with him, and he's really enjoying himself. It's lovely to see.
Yeah, all your site and the new Riddle logo and all that. I'm taking he probably did that. It all looks real smooth.
He's doing all the graphics.
Oh, that's killer. That's killer.
Aside from the little small parts that I put in, which he does not like.
He fixes them for you, I'm sure.
For later versions, exactly. Yeah. Which I'm okay with.
Yeah, for sure.
It's nice to have someone to lean on in that department. Somebody who's more proficient in it than I am, who has more experience.
Mm-hmm. Well, it seems like things are running smooth over there. I mean, with everything you're putting out, especially this last little release. So with the marketplace, it also, one of your last Medium articles was a foray into NFTs and talking about D-goods and possibly even having an auction for NFTs through Scatter. I mean, that starts to get really interesting.
And it won't even, that's exactly the marketplace that we're talking about. It won't even be for Scatter. You could connect to the wallet with, Meet One, IM Token, Token Pocket, all of these wallets who already support the Scatter protocols. They could just pull them right into the wallet just like they do any other DApp.
Okay, so it won't even be Scatter specific. It'll just be just basically if Scatter's plugged into their wallet, then any wallet will have this marketplace.
Right, exactly.
Wow.
And for them, there's small incentives for them. It works kind of like these exchange services where they can say that it's coming from their wallet and register their wallet with these smart contracts and take some of, let's say, the fees or however it ends up being structured. We don't want to, kind of lock ourselves into saying that there's going to be fees, but there might be fees to incentivize these other wallets to also use it and have kind of a cohesive ground for everybody.
Mm-hmm. And so integrating that with D-goods, it sounds like we're going to be talking about possibly having in the near future within, well, who knows, we won't say any timelines, but at some point having these NFTs integrated with games and then people selling their game items through this marketplace.
Right. And it won't only be for EOS, the marketplace.
For everything. Okay. Mm-hmm.
It'll be for any blockchain that Scatter supports.
Cool. And I know that Tron has a ton of apps right now as well.
Yeah.
I mean, that's something that you see a lot of. I mean, they're one of the other blockchains that's pumping out a lot of apps. So aside from Tron, what other chain does Scatter support that's got a lot of apps out there?
There's Tron, Ethereum, and EOS. We're in talks with like 10 different chains right now to see which one will be the next one.
Mm-hmm.
They're all good contenders. We kind of can't, they're going blow for blow at each other right now. We can't really say which one is going to be next because we're not sure ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
But there are a couple different smart contract blockchains which are already out there and also becoming ready now that are looking very promising.
What do you think that landscape looks like longer term? Do you think that one of these chains is going to end up more like clearly dominant or maybe mass adopted? Do you think there's kind of room for, is there room for like Ethereum, Tron, and EOS to all be part of mass adoption? Or
that users don't care.
Yeah.
When we get to the point, which is one of our aims at Scatter, when we get to the point where you don't even know what blockchain you're on, you just know that you have, Scatter Desktop or Bridge that's coming out at some point. When you know that you have an account and you can play these games, it doesn't matter to the user if they're on Ethereum or Tron or EOS. It might matter to them when they see the transaction times, but once there's a stabilization between all of them, it really won't matter. And I think there's ample space in this, just like there's ample space for, MySQL, Postgres, all these other databases, Couchbase, Maria. So there's enough people in the world to support any blockchain that will ever come out,
mm-hmm.
right?
So it really becomes kind of a blockchains competing for apps to be a part of their blockchain, as opposed to kind of competing for the users.
Right. There's a flow there. The blockchain will compete for developers via easy integration and such good transaction times, low fees or no fees. And then the dApps will be competing for the users, who in turn compete for those blockchains just via coincidence, mm-hmm. right? Mm-hmm. So it's really hard to say which blockchain will take the lead. It might just be coincidental.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there doesn't seem like there has to be that much network effect there necessarily either. Like more users doesn't necessarily mean that this blockchain all of a sudden is going to win for sure, because it's really about where the dApps are being built.
Exactly. And, if there happens to be one really good dApp on Tron, then mm-hmm. obviously Tron is going to come out as the winner, right? Mm-hmm. But it's not really the winner, because there are no winners there. It just happens to be the one with the biggest dApp on it, which is currently users are using the most.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, it's easy to be very communal. Like crypto is so tribal is the word that's used.
We're all bag holders.
Yeah, but it's just so early. It's like it's always fun to take a step back and be like, it doesn't really matter that much as long as blockchain itself is being adopted over time. There's so many people, so many uses. It's not this heavy competition even between EOS and Ethereum. Like maybe it plays out or seems like it is so close to it.
I feel like right now maybe we're stuck in a little bit of speculator's hell, where we the developers and the people who actually believe in the underlying technology of blockchain, we want it for a specific reason. We want it for immutability. We want it for taking out third-party middlemen. And then there's the speculators who really, they don't care about any of that. They just want to make a quick dollar. And both cases are valid. I mean, there's always going to be both cases, right? But I think as time goes on, we'll find a sort of balance there where it's split halfway instead of this weird, 90% of people are in it right now purely for speculation. And then people will just start using applications as if they're normal applications. It's part of the reason I don't like the term DApp. I think it kind of puts us into this little box, right? And once that happens and applications actually take the lead, it just changes the whole game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and DApp almost puts an unnecessary focus on decentralization where that's not necessary. I mean, that's one of the beautiful things about, and can be one of the beautiful things about blockchain, but it's not real necessary for a lot of the applications people are using it for. Like they don't care if it's decentralized or not. I mean, we might as well call them naps because they're NFT naps, and for me, that's almost a cooler application, especially when you're talking about gaming and things like that. So,
and you don't need blockchain for every part of your application, right? Just like you don't need a database for every part of your application, just like you don't need JavaScript for every part of your application, although that is a big part of it. But there's parts and bits that you can use blockchain for within your application to make the not only user experience better, because there are a lot of things in blockchain which are better user experience than centralized services. Such as onboarding from paying something in crypto is easier sometimes than paying it with bank transfer or credit card or something like that, because it's instant. You don't have to go through any checks and balances. And then there's things which you shouldn't be doing on blockchain. You shouldn't be putting anything private on blockchain. If you're going to store private information, it should be on your local server. If you haven't done that, then you're already harming your users, right? So there's definitely a broad existence of blockchain within applications.
Yeah. You mentioned privacy. There's the private Privios coming out. I'm actually talking to them soon. They're the next guest on the EOS podcast. I have
to say, I haven't done much research into it yet.
Okay.
So I don't want to say too much because it's not fair to them.
Yeah, for sure. Well, my best research is just asking people questions on the podcast. So that'll be done. My research will be done tomorrow when I actually talk to them and I just ask a bunch of stupid questions.
So you don't have like one of those blackboards where you meticulously put things together like a serial killer. Ask him this, make this question.
That would be cool. That would be. I picture that being awesome, but no, I don't. I have like a list of like 10 kind of cool things that's happened, and then like every once in a while I'll glance down and be like, oh yeah, I should ask about that. But no, that's I'm the free flowing podcast interview. I just let my curiosity take the lead.
With the hat.
Yeah, exactly. It's my curious hat. I let the hat on and go for it. But kind of what I've been most interested in is this idea of gaming and the NFTs and in that direction. And it was another recent Medium article, or maybe it was an article that was written somewhere else, but about Scatter possibly reaching out to games. Can you talk about that, like indie games and Steam games?
So we're always amazed at the amount of natural marketing that we get, because we don't put any money into marketing or do any marketing or anything like that. We just kind of post a Medium article every now and then. That one specifically, I think just because of the implications of it, what the article actually was us telling the community that we're starting to look for games. We're starting to look for games that aren't on blockchain, whether they're completely done or halfway done or whatever, and we'd like to license them or outright buy the assets and all of the IPs and all of that, and bring them to blockchain, starting with EOS. And they got posted to so many different outlets, and it was, it's humbling and heartwarming to see that kind of community outreach on our behalf, helping us bring other people into this space. It's amazing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the implications of that are pretty heavy. I mean, you think about how big something like the Steam marketplace is,
right.
And then you think of some sort of blockchain marketplace that's for blockchain
right.
games. Which is the direction that possibly all games are going to have some sort of NFT. It would make sense that they would have some sort of blockchain years down the road. So that shift is going to be there. It's a question of whether someone comes in and kind of replaces Steam for blockchain, or if Steam kind of gets ahead of the curve there. But yeah,
I mean, if
cool.
we look at blockchain as a whole, it's tiny. In the grand scheme of things, we're the smallest tiny percentage of the end of the percentage, right? Mm-hmm. And I think pushes like this, our personal belief is that pushes like this, which bring gamers who are a little bit more technically savvy than the general internet using population, just because they have to deal with games, they have to deal with installers, they have to deal sometimes with proprietary cracks for their games, which allow them to use other networks and such. And it makes them a better target for blockchain onboarding. Them downloading Scatter is the same as them downloading Discord. They're just used to having peripherals for their games. So we believe that gaming is a very good entrance into blockchain in general.
Yeah, especially since your target can kind of be the developer, and a lot of game developers, they're like, especially indie game developers, I'd imagine, are looking for ways to monetize. And so this idea that they could possibly monetize these games in a new way is huge. It's
we got a really sad email, actually. It's funny that you say that. One of the emails was a guy who had poured his heart and soul into this game. And it was on Steam, and it had 30 downloads. And it was a good game. And he was just like, look, I don't know what you guys want to do with this, but if you do decide to go with me, I wouldn't want to outright sell you the entire rights, but I'd like to come on and continue to work on this because I love working on it, and I just can't. I don't have the ability to support myself with this full time. And seeing that is like, wow, some of these guys out there are doing really good work, but they're just getting hidden by the sea of games on, let's say, Steam, for instance. And it's hard for them. They're looking for an out, and they don't mind. It's not even that they don't mind. They would rather monetize through blockchain configurations than have to put invasive measures like tracking or ads into their games. It's something that they don't want to do. They're gamers. They make games because they like gaming. They don't want to have to blow ads in your face just to make enough money to support themselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's one of the kind of the bigger picture things that blockchain is the thought of it is going to solve someday is this. There's a lot of ways that people add value into the world, but there's not really an easy way to monetize it. And that's one of the cool things is it's stepping in places like there. Paytree EOS is coming out soon, which is a way for YouTubers to monetize and things like that. And yeah, there's these, and it's going to spread out a lot more where there's all these little ways that people add value into the world, but don't really have a way to monetize it. So that's cool to reach out to those indie game developers. How do those guys even, I mean, there's thousands of games. I wonder how you even get found. Is it just luck? I mean, I'm sure you could have a great game. Yeah, you could have a great game and just no one notices it, or there's a lot of marketing.
The downside of this huge internet that we have, right, is you could have the best technology on earth. But if you don't market it correctly, Scatter being the unicorn that it is, where we don't have any marketing, but generally, if you don't market it correctly, nobody's going to find it, no matter what.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Scatter, it was, great product and great timing. So it's just, timing. Yeah, so it just is, luckily that people love what you guys are doing. So kind of, you have
and we know that
army of marketers out there. So that's rad. Yeah. But
we owe it all to you.
Yeah, well, I look forward to seeing what kind of games you guys bring on board, or hopefully something people are coming to you with great stuff and more stories like that. Maybe that's a really cool direction. And Steam itself has gotten a lot of has been in the news in the last few years, just as far as blowback for how their monetization and
right.
And closing.
A lot of devs are pretty angry,
Yeah.
Same deal with Apple Store, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, let me just go make this game, and then I'll pay you, a percentage of my earnings, or a flat fee for Apple developer. Same with Unity and Unreal. I think one of those is better than the other, has better terms, but one of them takes percentage of your total profits. Mm-hmm. So it's hard out there for these developers to make games which can self-sustain.
Yeah, what's also rough about that is that the developers are putting in all the work and the creativity and the love into these projects, and then there's these people. Well, it's not people, but basically people who have.
How do you envision them? Are they sitting in like a boardroom smoking cigars?
Yeah, they're the ones with the big map with the strings that look like serial killers. That's how I envision them. Yeah, but,
I saw it in your eyes. You were like,
Yeah. Well, it is. I'm a free market guy, so it's fine that's kind of there. But it excites me the fact of kind of being able to drive a wedge in where there's these other ways to to fix that a little bit, because I think that it's just human nature. That pendulum kind of swings back and forth, and right now it's been going kind of this way so long that there's become these big monopolies in all these different areas. And so now it's nice to have these different ways to start driving little wedges in, and let the.
There's a couple different projects. I won't name them because there's a few of them, so I don't want to put any of them over the other. But there's a couple different projects running on EOS right now who are actually going to be competing with Steam.
Oh, cool! Great.
So it's going to be nice to have something. What's the problem with a monopoly? Is the monopoly can set their own prices, the same as the drug companies in the United States. And if you have no other people who are able to compete with you, then you can do whatever you want with the price, and you can screw everybody. Mm-hmm. And when you have competition, it just makes it better for everybody, except for those, the monopoly. But that's okay.
Yeah, well, that's okay. And that's something cool. Scatter's doing. You're offering integration, all the different wallets and things like that, and keeping kind of a heavy wallet competition out there. I think that's really cool for the ecosystem.
Keeps us honest.
Yeah, that's cool. So you mentioned, or in Twitter and your on your webpage, you've mentioned stable coins on Scatter. What's that look like?
Well, there already are stable coins. Right now, they're all running on one. I think actually Carbon might have been added to Bancor, but most of them are running on Ethereum. So there's DAI there. There's TUSD, CUSD. CUSD is Carbon. There's a couple different tokens there already. And one of our plans for the nearer future is to have a stabilize and destabilize button. So let's say you're holding DICE or IQ or something like that, and you notice that the market is tanking. You can just click stabilize. It'll stabilize to a stable coin. And once you see the market kind of, getting ready, you can just destabilize it again, and it will go right back to the one that you had initially, no matter how many hops it was from that initial coin. We're working on kind of an exchange API right now, which will help along that process, because right now it might be a couple different hops. Let's say you have to go from IQ to EOS to Ethereum to a stable coin, and then all the way back, and it's a bit too many steps. It'll cost you a lot of fees. But we understand there's a lot of traders out there. We're focused primarily around apps, but we like to give things that users want. So that's one of those more tradery aspects of Scatter. One of the only.
Yeah. I mean, that makes trading so, makes trading so simple. If people are just thinking about it like stabilize and destabilize.
Exactly. Instead of here, let me go stop sell this at, an exchange.
Yeah.
You see all the graphs and you're like, what the is going on here?
Stop limit. What the fuck?
What does that even mean?
Yeah, well, that opens up the door for people. Hopefully they don't hurt themselves with it, but it is probably but it's probably, I mean, you're not going to hurt yourself the same way that you could hurt yourself trading. So I guess that's probably good. Maybe that'll keep people off.
You would only hurt yourself by not making the extra.
Exactly.
Going, unless, the stable coin actually just craps itself and then.
Yeah. Exactly. So that's part of the token exchange. Basically, it's where people don't have to go to an external exchange, and so that also
we will be taking that off of Scatter as well.
What's that?
We will be taking that off of Scatter as well. Not taking it off, but allowing it to be imported into other wallets.
Okay. And that's cool. I mean, so you're building tools that other wallets basically can throw in and make other wallets more effective. And especially these early days where everyone is just, a lot of people, I think, just by happenstance are just kind of using a wallet that they started using somewhere. And it's like, okay, now I use this
very
one.
Personal.
Yeah, I'm comfortable with it. So,
it's you have to trust your wallet, So when you've been using a wallet for 6 months and you haven't been scammed or tricked or hurt, then it becomes a very personal thing. It becomes your go-to wallet no matter what. Everybody's like, I have this wallet, I have this wallet, I have this wallet. So it's good that we have a lot of trusted people and we have a lot of untrusted people. But it's also good that we have a lot of trusted people in the kind of blockchain sphere that are pushing those narratives.
So let's talk a little bit about Riddle, because that's one of the bigger projects that's come out recently or made some progress. You've got a cool new logo with the shield and the thumbprint, the identity and the safety. I take that's from your brother. Cool. So a reputation identity layer, and talk about how that works and kind of what that'll mean for people and the Chrome browser and that type of thing.
So it's, again, a multi-tiered system there as far as interactability. One is the Chrome extension, which you can just install into your browser and it'll help keep you safe while you're going along. I won't commit to saying we're going to have a Firefox and Safari one because I've dealt with those before and they're a huge hassle to deal with. But there will be a Chrome one. I mean, there's already parts of the Chrome one ready. And then the second part would be we have a website where you can just go to that website. You don't need the Chrome extension or anything like that. And you can just look up different reputations for different things, say a blockchain address or some item in a game or a user or a contract or whatever. And then the third part will be an API where other wallets or other apps or other anything can actually tap into this. And then the fourth part is actually the smart contract. So you can pull these reputations from directly on chain into your contract to make sure that, a certain address isn't malicious or something like that. So it can be used inside of an exchange or other dApps who want to deal with loaning or stuff like that. And that's just the interaction side. On the actual tech side, though we use it specifically ourselves just for mostly for security and rating of apps and stuff, it's so much broader than that. If we take dgoods as an example, because of the way that both dgoods and Riddle are created, you can have categorization in dgoods, which says, you have this game, you have weapons, and then you have this specific weapon. And in Riddle, you can do the same thing. So you can match reputations across each stack. So you can say this game has such and such reputation. All weapons generally have such and such. And reputation doesn't mean reputation. It could mean strength and dexterity or things like that, specific towards that app. And then this weapon could have a specific reputation. And the owner of this weapon could have a specific reputation. So you can go all the way down the stack and have reputations for each of these and unique identities for them all, which makes it very dynamic, very hard to say what it will be used for in the future.
What would be a guess of how like a weapon reputation would be used? I mean, and not reputation. So you're just, I'm guessing that would mean that people are kind of giving their vote on how powerful a weapon is type of thing?
Right. Or not even, it could be anything. Let's say there was, for this specific game, they had we call them fragments. So it's just a named thing that you can vote on. It's kind of like a scoring system. The whole thing is kind of like a scoring system. And we could call it rarity, right? So users can vote that this weapon or this whole entire category of weapons, let's say rare swords, right, has a rarity of 0.7, whereas another category has a rarity of 4.5, right? So it's instantly available to see which weapon is more rare, which weapon is rarer, which isn't something that you always have in games. Sometimes, take Diablo, for instance, you can pick up a weapon, you don't know if it's good or not, and you just go and you sell it to some random NPC in the game, and then later you find out that you sold like some $50,000 weapon because you didn't know. Right?
Okay.
And it sucks.
Yeah. Okay. And what's the UX look like for this, or how are you picturing? Are you picturing with that browser extension kind of a score as you interact with items, kind of just popping up there for you, or?
So for the browser extension specifically, because it's only aimed at protecting you on the web, there is a score. The icon for the browser extension changes depending on what tab you're on, what link you're on, what URL you're on, and it'll instantly show you if it's blue, that means it's okay, and then it'll show you a rating of blue, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If it's red, that means that it's bad, some form of bad, either it's scam or it's dangerous, or they're unsolvent, and then it'll show you red, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5 being the worst, and then you can actually click it, and it'll show you a breakdown of exactly what's going on there, how much of a scam it is, how dangerous it is, how insolvent they are, a whole bunch of different global kind of fragments.
Oh, wow. That's cool. I mean, but having it up in it reminds me of it's different, but the little shield that you get when you're on a secure website, just kind of a quick visual,
Right.
that you see where you're at. And then you can dig in deeper. That's
Right.
killer.
And then let's say for scatter, for instance, because you don't have the extension, we're building it right into the wallet. So when you try to log into a website, let's say you tried to log into that recent Telos Dash Foundation IO scam, before you even click accept to log in, not even for the signature transaction, before you try to log in, it'll say, hey, this is a scam site. You don't want to log into this. It won't stop you from logging in, but it will tell you exactly why you shouldn't be logging in. This is negative 700 reputation dangerous.
And that will take obviously a couple people logging in, something going wrong, and then them rating it. Or
so not particularly. Yes, in general, it is a burn system. One person has to be burned first, right? But for that specific site, if somebody like me, who knows the EOS ecosystem and the contracts and what all the actions do, if I were to have gone to that website and then gone through the process of trying to claim, if they would have gotten me first, I would have instantly noticed this is an update auth, right? I would have known what update auth is, because that was the main problem here, is people didn't understand what update auth actually was. And I would have just immediately clicked decline, went to Riddle, reputed it badly, and given it a shit score.
Okay. So so there's also the chance for people to they don't necessarily have to be burned. They can find a scam website and then report it without actually getting burned. Okay. Yeah.
And the great thing about that is if you're the first person to repute something, you become a miner of it for a bit. So everybody who reputes after you get a little bit of the tokens that were used from that repute. So I'm very sure that a form of bounty hunters will come into existence who just look for the memos, because that's how a lot of these scam sites get out. They look for the memos, and they'll just go to these sites and try to be the first to repute them negatively.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, then that makes it a race that lines up the incentives beautifully, where now all of a sudden there's this race on the other end to expose these. Yeah.
I'm going to race to scam people's money. Well, I'm going to race to help people not get scammed.
Yeah. And you might as well be a white hat on that one. That's
beautiful
killer.
Symbiotic relationship.
That's great, man. I like it. So let's see what else I've got here. I've got that the Scatter desktop game competition.
Yes.
What's that?
Well, we are we haven't actually talked about this. That's funny. Mario Silva, the guy who works on our C# and Unity SDK, and also EOS Sharp, and there's a C# WebSockets, and he's been doing a lot of work, really good work. He just released the 2.0 for Scatter Sharp and EOS Sharp, which kind of adds a lot of needed functionality, like being able to use that library within web games from Unity. So we were lacking some support for that, and also updating it to our modern standard of scatter.js and et cetera. And now that we're putting this into beta phases, also by starting this whole Scatter Games thing where we're purchasing and licensing games, we're putting that library through beta testing. Once the beta testing is over and we can see for sure that it's working as intended and such, we're going to be releasing a desktop game competition using Unity 3D, and the winners will get some money.
Oh, it's killer. That'll be fun, man. That'll be this rest of this year is going to be fantastic. I'm excited. wish I could hop in a time machine and go see what happens, but I guess I'll just have to.
Don't do that.
Yeah, no. What am I talking
about?
I gotta
the glory.
sit here and live it and love it as long as I can, huh? I know since this last 8-9 months has already passed like that. So I'm sure the next will happen as well. I should probably be trying to slow it down instead.
Yeah, man.
So.
Don't slow down the moon.
Yeah.
The tech moon.
Yep. Cool. Well, we've gone through a lot of stuff here. Is there anything that's going on with Scatter that we've kind of glossed over or didn't mention?
I think the one that most people are interested in right now is probably Bridge, which is kind of our way to sign into applications without Scatter. Just a Facebook login or a mobile phone or an email or something like that. And it's it goes without saying how impactful a service like that is when you don't have to download a wallet. We know that we ourselves are a barrier to adoption, and we don't want to be holding that mantle forever. So I think that really is what a lot of people are talking about more than anything, aside from the games acquisition for some reason.
Yeah. What's the security look like? How do the people secure their keys and that type of?
They don't deal with it. It's I will be straight up front with this. It is a centralized service, right? We control those keys. And a lot of people will say that they don't want to do that. That's fine. That's what we have Scatter Desktop for, right? You can take the accounts that are on Scatter Bridge and move them to Scatter Desktop, and we will no longer have control over your keys or assets or anything like that. However, if we want to bring new people into blockchain, they don't know what keys are, and they have no incentive to learn what keys are. But I guarantee you, if they make $100 on bet dice, they will find a way to protect their keys and own their accounts, right? So we have to start thinking like that. Instead of education, we need to start thinking about incentives, because that's what really brings people into space.
Yeah, I mean, you can't you can't tell people you can't tell people how to think or how they should be marketed to. You have to basically get in their head and feel how they're thinking, and then give them what they need. That's really the only approach. And kind of the best point there is that once people have money or have some sort of skin in the game, then all of a sudden, then there's that incentive to protect it.
Right.
And for some people, they still won't care. Maybe they'll have to get like thousands of dollars in there before they're like, I care. And we
won't allow them to do that though.
Oh, really?
There is an actual, there's a cap on that service. So you can't actually have more than a specified, system token value. We're not going to aggregate all of your alt tokens.
That's probably a good idea. That takes away a big giant honey pot anyway.
Exactly. We don't want to be, the one guy who gets hacked and kills all blockchain.
Yeah. Yeah. The second,
but it'll be extremely easy to move to. It's not like setting up a new account on Scatter now with EOS, for instance, right? All you'd have to do at that point is click a button, which you download your backup file to. Bring it in, import it to Scatter Desktop, type in your password, and you're ready to go. It's not like you have to go through the EOS account creations, importing your keys, yada, yada, yada. It's all ready for you.
Yeah, so you just have it, you're storing that file securely for them, and then someday when they get it together and they want it, you can just send it right to Scatter. The idea of people being able, there's so many people that I'd love to get into, just even family and things that know what I'm doing, but just aren't going to sit down for 15 minutes and have me get them set up. But if I just be like, here's an app, download it and use your Facebook, then they'd be like, oh, cool, we can finally do this,
Right.
So,
and for developers, because we're so focused on developers, for them, it's no work. All they have to do is add the scatter bridge plugin and they're good to go. If scatter.js doesn't, our JavaScript library, if it doesn't see scatter on their computer or any other type of wallet that we support, Meet One, IAM token, token pocket, links, whatever it is, it'll just default to that bridge. With the app doesn't have to do anything. They use their application exactly the same as if they're interacting with any of these wallets, and then the user will just be able to log in with Facebook or an email.
And what app would they be logging into? They'd be logging into Scatter Bridge app?
It would be bridge.getscatter.com.
Bridge.getscatter, okay. And that would basically, they'd log in with, let's say, Facebook. They'd come in and then they'd see the same interface as if they were in a, like the Scatter Marketplace type of interface, or what would
we are modeling it to look like a slimmed down version of Scatter Desktop, very focused just on apps. So that when they move to desktop, it'll be an easier move to them. They won't have to relearn a UI or anything like that. But it will have a little bit less functionality just because it doesn't need that functionality. It'll also have some things which you don't have in desktop, like limiting the amount of tokens you can use in specific apps so that they can't drain your account, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay. And will they be able to kind of transfer money in and out of that?
Yep. Yeah.
Okay. But there'll be probably a limit on it.
It's a fully blown EOS account.
Okay. Okay. Cool. Wow. Yeah, that'll be big. How far in the future is that? Is that
no idea.
No
We're
idea.
building right now, like concurrently. So it's really impossible to say how much each one of these will take because we're hiring people now to actually work on different facets of Scatter. So it's not just me anymore working on these things and saying, oh, I have to do 1, 2, 3 before I can even do that. However, Riddle does need to come out before that because we will be using Riddle inside of Bridge to show those same warnings that we show in Scatter. So you shouldn't be logging into this application. In Bridge specifically, we might actually not let you log into certain applications who have very low scores.
Cool. That's amazing. So aside from Bridge, is there anything else that we've kind of glossed over here?
Oh man, there's so much.
more on Scatter. Anything big in Scatter we're missing? What else are we missing in Scatter?
We have this Venn diagram of the 4 categories of adoption: liquidity, and developers, and onboarding, and something like that. And man, like 70% of that stuff we haven't even released to the public, but it's going to be crazy.
Oh,
I don't want to hype it up at all, so I'm not going to tell you anything.
Okay.
We're not the hype.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I like how you guys work. I was right before we started, I was saying how Scatter will kind of go dark, not for a long time, just for a little while. But that means that something cool is about to pop out. And so, like how Riddle just came out with, with your new logo and your new branding and all the, the website shots and stuff is cool. I was like, okay. Yeah. So
we like to do that. I think that by now, there's 2 triggers that the community knows. Like one is if we're dark, then something's coming, right? It's like, it's a proven fact already. And the second is if I release something, I'm going to sleep. Like 2 minutes afterwards. Well, those are the 2 sureties.
Those are good. Those are killer. Cool, man. Well, it was a blast to have you on. I probably won't wait another 6 months to have you on again because you guys are doing stuff so fast. But we'll have to do it again and catch up.
Maybe next time we'll bring a whole bunch of people on.
Yeah, for sure.
Having Scatter guys here.
Yeah, bring the whole. When you got your Scatter team all built, we'll have a big live conference.
There's already 5 of us now.
Is there really? No kidding.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah, I only knew about your. I knew about your brother Rami. You've got 5 now. Cool. Well, that's good. That's good for the community. That means stuff's gonna be moving fast. Our Scatter wallet's gonna be getting more interesting. Cool. Well, I'm most excited about the game developers. I don't know what everyone else is most excited about, but that's what I'm always excited. Right? I know. Exactly. Just how quickly can I just get a cool sword and sell it for EOS? That's all I want.
You know what sucks though? Because I feel guilty whenever I play a game. I'm like, I should be fucking working right now. But What's worse is I play a game to relax from like blockchain, and then I start up a game and I'm like, dude, blockchain in this game.
Yeah, for sure. Or when you're able to start like earning money, selling like stuff from your games, and all of a sudden it's going to be this.
Then you become a trader instead of playing.
Yeah, right? Like I don't even need to really do my other job. Even I'll just like play this video game and trade and trade items and
that. I mean, people already do this. They quit their jobs to go become like Twitch stars and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
This market already exists. It's just a little bit dumb right now. Mm-hmm. They don't have all of the tools to be able to make as much money as they possibly could.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and then think about integrating that with VR, because we've got high fidelity. I don't know if you've put on an Oculus Rift lately, but my God, I've been putting on the Oculus Rift like once a year for like 5 or 6 years, like since it came out. Yeah, and each time I'm like, it's getting closer. It's getting close. And this time I put it on, I was like, oh my God, yes, this is so fun.
It doesn't even have vertigo anymore, but you move your head around. You're like, oh, this is just weird.
Yeah.
What's going on here?
I know. Yeah. I've spent a few hours just at a time just messing around with all the different games. There's a bow and arrow shooting game that's like really realistic, and you're just like, fighting all these people throwing arrows. There's scuba diving, which is killer. Even just Google Earth, just traveling around, like going to the pyramids.
There's one called sorcery, and I can't remember what it is, but it's like the most brutal fighting game I've ever seen, where like you have to block people and stab them with things, and like you can throw your weapons at them. And I was just looking at this game, I was like, oh my God, I've never seen such a brutal game.
Really?
It was like, I'm gonna stab him in the eye, and he stabs him in the eye, and the sword sticks in there. Jesus.
Yeah. Well, I mean, as soon as like high fidelity and that kind of Second Life thing happens, where we have the Oasis, and you're able to have NFT tokens, and you can earn money within the game, and all this, all of a sudden we're on the brink of some change.
The most interesting thing about that being like, because it's a smart contract platform and anybody can technically put code onto this network, you could really have kind of an Oasis thing where other people build these little sections of this game into new smart contracts, right? Mm-hmm. So you could have user-generated content in the most significant way, where an entire level of the game is built by a user, including all of the assets, and your graphics look different when you step into this level. I mean, the possibilities for something like that on blockchain are just phenomenal.
Yeah, man, that is, because I was just thinking about all the different assets within the one game. But if people were building their own smart contracts and their own little communities within the overarching one, it's getting meta.
You build, some kind of client which taps into all of them. It's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
That's where you really get into real ownership of blockchain items.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Well, that's an interesting one. I've been trying to get High Fidelity to come to our meetup in San Francisco, because they're in San Francisco also, and give like a talk. But they're not quite far enough along yet. I think they're like you. They want to keep things under wrap until they have something. So they're doing it right. But I'll keep asking them every couple of months. So,
I mean, we know that they have the tech stack, the balls to do that.
Oh yeah.
It's just a matter of time.
Yeah, that guy's kind of a legend in the VR space, in that Second Life. I think his name's Phil Rose. Yeah, he created Second Life, and that before like crypto came along, Second Life had like millions and millions of dollars worth of in-game coin transactions. They were basically the crypto before blockchain. So he's an interesting dude. So.
Blockchain before time.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. Well, people can go get Scatter, getscatter.com. Where's the best places for them to find you?
Scatter.com.
Get-Scatter.
Just so there's no scams happening, right?
Get-Scatter.com. Do not get scammed.
Right.
Yeah. And you guys can find me. The EOS Podcast is also a podcast. That's why it's called EOS Podcast. And the purpose is so that when you're working, you're supposed to be working, you can actually be learning about EOS, which is a fun way to work. So
when you're supposed to be working, you can listen to some stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Or driving to work. So the EOS Podcast is a podcast. Also, I have a Proxy, Mr. Happy Money Proxy. because I talk to block producers, and I've been doing that for a long time.
Together, can't you?
Yes, you can. Yeah, there you go. There it is. Awesome. We had a good little partnership going there. So if you like the podcast and you trust my judgment and all these cool block producers I talk to, I don't vote for everyone that I talk to, but the good ones for sure. So
ouch.
yeah. Well, I can't. It's just or else they'd all just be trying to come on the podcast just to get the proxy vote.
Those are marketing strategies.
I know. Exactly. So there it is. So that was a fun show, man. I appreciate your time, Nathan, and you guys are doing big time stuff. So I appreciate that too.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, for sure. Cheers.
The money is not the prime asset in life. Time is, and your time is just